thank you for tuning into this edition of the Lipedema channel, TLC. We offer a lot of tender love and care to those with lipedema, those who are searching for answers. And this is a platform to share inspiring stories from people who are walking this journey with you. And in today's case, helping to lead the charge to get help for people with lipedema. My guest, and I'm so honored to have her today, has lipedema and is also working with amazing people like Dr. Herbst to write the standard of care for those with lipedema. Linda Ann, it's so nice to have you here today.
It's wonderful to be on this platform. It's been such a welcoming, wonderful, moving platform. I've attended all the Lippy ladies lectures.
Well, I have to tell you that every story I hear brings hope and inspires more women. And while I'm super interested in this standard of care that's being developed, I'd love to hear your lipedema story. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. Well, one of the reasons that I am because I'm a lymphedema therapist, so I treat all kinds of conditions. But one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about treating lipedema is because I have lipedema. And I know all the struggles that I had when I was a teenager and as I got older, and all the struggles that I had. And I would look at the other girls' ankles and look at their legs. And in those days, we wore high heels with straps around the ankle. Not good for someone with lipedema. And I think, oh my God, look at those ankles. I always wanted that, and my legs were just straight. And I went through the story that I hear from many of my patients. I starved. I tried every diet. I was almost anorexic. Honestly, it was bad. Starving, counting calories, weighing things. And then I moved to the United States. And I didn't know what was wrong with me. And then I became a beauty therapist and a massage therapist. And I still didn't know what was wrong with me. And I moved to the United States. And I found a Dr. Vada manual lymph drainage course taught by a woman called Anneli from Finland. And I flew to Salt Lake City, and I really became interested in the lymph system, and I didn't quite know why. Then I started training with Hildegard, my teacher, my present teacher from the Dr. Vada school. And when I was in Austria in 1992, graduating as a lymphedema therapist, Hildegard said to me, look, you have lipedema, because we were on the table working with each other. And I said, but I don't look like the pictures you've been showing us. Well, it was because I had stage 1. And so I then, and in that talk, she was talking about small chain fatty acids in one of our lectures, and what happens as we process fats and what happens in lipedema. And I set out on a journey, studying nutrition, studying everything to try and find out what that was. And over the years, I saw which foods made me bloat. You've heard the stories. You get put on 5 pounds overnight. It's hard to lose the weight, easy to put it on. Sometimes I'd have extra pain in my legs. All the stories I hear from my patients. And so I developed this diet, which we now call the anti-inflammatory diet. And then I met Karen Herbst. She used to work in San Diego, and she had the RAD diet, and we met, and the diets were almost similar, but we don't call them a diet, it's a lifestyle.
Well, I have to tell you that literally I probably don't have to ask one question. I have a feeling I could just say go, and you could, there's so much that really started with your profession that intersected with something very personal. I want to go back to when they first said to you, oh, you have lipedema. And you're like, I don't look like those photos. Were there any courses of action that were recommended for you? And also, oh my goodness, the fortune to be diagnosed at stage 1, because
Correct.
then you can halt that progression, can't you?
Absolutely. And actually, I had been working really hard, not knowing what I had, with exercise, with my diet. I was I was really being really, you know, not eating junk, eating good foods, exercising. So I always was very mindful. And I think that that helped a lot to keep to stage 1. But at that time in 1992, there was very little known about lipedema. We were not taught a lot at the Dr. Vada School. I then went on to train with the Casely Smiths, and I then trained at the Foldy Clinic. I was there for a month. Still very little information about lipedema. So there was no course of action. I had to take that action myself, which I did. And yes, lipedema does progress to different stages, but I am living proof to show it does not have to.
Okay, I have goosebumps because the one thing I hear from all of the women I speak with is we will do anything for it to not get worse. And we've heard the stories and seen the photos of women who are no longer mobile at all. I'm inspired by people like Patty Cornute, whose doctor told her not to exercise to exacerbate it. And yet she now is running triathlons, and she's so inspiring. So many women have had to forge their own path in trying to find answers. And I applaud you for doing the same. So what advice can you give all of us?
And I am not going to retire because I've been working now nearly 40 years. I'm not going to retire until the doctors know and understand lipedema and Derkums, because I don't want to hear any more stories that we're all hearing all the time. So it's when you're ready in stage 3, that's more challenging, but for stage 1 and stage 2, now, there's so many different diets out there that I'm not going to say which one is best because it's very specific to each person. And we know that many lipedema patients are doing very well on the keto diet, many on the Mediterranean, the anti-inflammatory diet. It's very specific. It's bioidentical. And actually, if you speak to all the ladies, they know what works for them and what doesn't. But the number one is no processed foods, no packaged foods, really trying to avoid sugar. And I think that the white carbs should definitely be eliminated. On the keto diet, you have to eliminate more carbs. I don't work that way, but it is a very good diet to do. So that's number one. You have to move. You always have to move, some form of exercise. So with my patients, I try to see what works well for you. What can you do at the stage that you're at? And even if I've got to have them standing on a wheelchair, holding the wheelchair, and I show them exercises, that's still movement. So I do Pilates. I do that twice a week. Now it's on Zoom. I do yoga, and I walk every day. Swimming is the most fantastic exercise for lipedema. And so if people like to swim and they have access to a pool, that would be an amazing thing. So the two things, watching what you're eating and moving, absolutely moving. And then don't get, stuck into your disease and feel desperate. You have to have hope. You have to know, like a lot of the ladies you've had on your program, that there's something you can do in spite of what the doctor has said. You can do this, and you have to hold that out in front of you and move forward all the time.
So we're glad you're not retiring, because this is a voice that needs to be heard. And it's about educating the medical community about the validity of this disease.
That's right.
But then there's this other challenge, which is getting the insurance payers to recognize that there is help available to these women, and yet in many cases insurance doesn't cover it.
It's very, very sad. Now the ICD-10 codes will be out. I believe Dr. Herb said in 2022. That's going to help a lot. When the standard of care comes out, and Dr. Herbst chose 20 individuals, there were 6 of us who were therapists, there were vascular surgeons, plastic surgeons, and now there's a small team of us who working on getting it smaller so that it can get published. The goal is that when that is out, then the medical community will have something to look at, something that they can see that they can do in all aspects, vascular, lymphatic. And that is what our hope is. It's very, very important.
Well, that's my hope with you. And what an honor to be included in developing that standard of care. So some of the things you just mentioned, exercise and diet. Now, we know it's not calories in, calories out for a lipedema woman, okay? And we're not advocating go on a diet. That is not our message at all here.
No,
But
absolutely not.
your standard of care, what does that include?
Well, we have a whole section on self-care. Some of the things that I spoke to you about are there: the exercise, the trampolining, whole body vibration. I know you've spoken about that. I have a whole body vibration unit in my clinic, and all my clients are invited to use it because it's really, really important. So it includes that. And then there's all the procedures for the surgeries. What was exciting during that meeting, we met at the last fat disorder conference for 2 days, and what was really exciting was hearing the surgeons, the vascular surgeons talking, and the plastic surgeons, and then the therapists gave their input, because they have to understand what we're doing, and we need to truly understand what they're doing, so that there will all be that as part of it. There were also some researchers there. It's very, very exciting.
I feel like we are on the verge of something big that we've all been waiting for.
Yes, yes. And, even with lymphedema therapists, not all the lymphedema therapists understand lipedema. More and more it's happening. Dr. Herbst and I spoke at many of the national lymphedema conferences, and then I've spoken at all of the fat disorder conferences. But at the lymphedema conferences where there were therapists, we're learning more and more about lipedema. And certainly the therapists we had in the standard of care are just fabulous. It was an honor, to be with them. And so that's how we're moving ahead. And so when your ladies are looking for a therapist, yes, there are many people who can do the lymph drainage, which is great. But you want somebody who can also coach you, help you along with your diet, help you with the challenges you're having, keep your spirits up. So I like to work with aromatherapy, with nutrition, guided imagery. We have to work the whole body mind when we're working with lipedema, because as you said, it's not just diet, it's everything. It's just everything. And what you're thinking goes into all the cells in your body and translates to that. So we want to be very positive all the time. And I know it can be really hard with some of the ladies in stage 3 or lipolymphedema.
I want to come to your office like right now and curl up with all those books and smell that aromatherapy. It sounds amazing. So I know that many of our viewers right now are thinking, well, can I connect with you? Do you do virtual visits?
I do. We were closed for 3 months, and it was devastating. My patients, I was speaking to a lot of them on the phone, but I also was doing virtual conferences with people in other towns, actually. And it was amazing how much we could do. I had people hold up their legs and then press so I could see how hard it was. And then we did a lot of nutrition and self-care, self-massage. It's really important to learn the self-massage and the dry brushing, sometimes exercises to do while you're on the whole body vibration unit, aromatherapy, and the aromatherapy for stress management as well as for increasing the circulation, vasoconstricting. Many of the patients have problems with the veins. So aromatherapy can help with a lot of that. I'm speaking at the National Lymphedema Network conference on integrative care, and I'll be presenting on aromatherapy there.
That is fascinating. So how can people get a hold of you?
So I have a website called www.lymphatictherapyservices.com. Services with an S on the end.
Okay. because I think I hear this so often. I know I have lipedema, or I'm pretty sure I have it, but I can't even find somebody that will diagnose me.
Correct.
I'm very honored that our company provides the Lympha Press Optimal Plus. And, we talk about women that aren't able to be mobile. Well, this creates a pumping action that helps the circulation. So it's as if you've exercised to help move that lymph. And as Dr. Herbst said, break up that fibrosis. And I've got so many women holding that order form and they can't find someone to fill it out.
Right, right. So I'm not a physician, but I can diagnose lipedema, Dürkheim's. I mean, my hands just know. I do a full, palpation everywhere to see what's going on. And I always say, I'm not a doctor and I can't diagnose. However, I know exactly what they have. And I have many, many patients coming who looked on the website, they've Googled heavy legs, they think they might have it, and then I will palpate and I will tell them. And I'll help people if they want information on surgery, whatever level they're at. I had a new patient a few weeks ago who's stage 3, late stage 3. She does not want to do surgery. And so I said to her, okay, this is what happens. We can help you if you lose the weight and you do the exercises, and we'll slowly modify them as you go along. This is how you're going to look. You still will have those lobules there. They're not going to go away, but they'll be much better. Your pain will be reduced. You'll be able to fit into your clothes much better. You'll feel much better. So not everybody wants surgery, and we have to honor where everybody is.
Absolutely. And that's what I've heard over and over again. Listen to your own body and your own instincts. This is your journey. This is your path, but there are answers. And one of the best answers is linking arms and finding people that are walking this similar walk that you can learn from and that want to encourage you. So I really appreciate your positive message, and that it's not just a checklist of do this, do that, but you're also talking about a person's outlook and their spirit and their mental health too.
That's correct. And everything is individual. Every person is different. Everybody has a different health history, different comorbidities that they have. So we as therapists really need to adapt to that. And we can't take someone from here and get them all the way to there. My routine and what I do, it's taken me 30 years to get there. So I don't expect everyone to get there overnight, but I can certainly help them along the way. And there are many other therapists who can do that as well.
So you are interacting with women all the time who have lipedema. Do you have any stories that come to mind of someone who found success or was able to create a better path for themselves after your work with them?
I have a lot of those stories, but one that comes to mind in particular is a patient with Dürkheim's disease. And as you know, Dürkheim's disease patients can often have lipedema. Actually, I have 2 stories for you.
Oh, good. I love stories.
But this one, it was a young woman. She was 28 at the time. She was actually originally referred to me by Dr. Herbst. Might have been 6 years ago, 7 years ago. She was so bad, and she had just been diagnosed in terrible pain, not being able to walk, not being able to think. Her mom brought her to the clinic. Her mom came to every clinic, every treatment that we did, and I was doing lymph drainage on her. Then one day her mom didn't come, and then I started talking to her about, there are many levels to healing, because her mom, wonderful woman, and she's very medical, and we looked at all the tests and the test results and the blood labs. I said, there are many levels to healing. So slowly I was able to help her to look at things in a different way, that she wasn't just lab results. I got her to do swimming. Swimming is fabulous, but she did aquatherapy. She was doing aquatherapy. And then I got her to do many, many other things. Then we started working with gua sha. The gua sha tools are great for fibrosis, for lipedema, and for Dürkheim's. She continued to come for the lymph drainage, continued with the MLD, with the aqua exercises. Then she started doing tuina, And slowly we started doing the lymph drainage less. She was doing lymph drainage 1 week, Tuina the next. Terrible problems with her back because Derkum's patients often have that. Anyway, I could go on and on about her, but she's a graphic artist and she's working again. She got married. This gentleman who'd been with her was with her the whole way through, and she got married in July. I was supposed to be at the wedding, but because of COVID, it was online. She cried. I was crying the whole way through to see her so happy that she came through this. And I know that I was a very, very important part of her journey, keeping her on track and keeping her looking forward. I think that's a really important thing.
And empowering women that their lipedema doesn't define them.
Correct.
Or confine them. It all starts here. And what you will believe, well, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Because your mind is so powerful. So letting women know that, okay, so maybe they may have some limitations in their body at this moment, but what can you think about? What can you dream about? What can you hope for? That's a powerful creation tool I have found in my own life. And when I believe that something good can happen, oftentimes it will follow. We want to encourage all of you out there to believe. Don't give up. More than anything, that's our message. Don't give up. People are researching. People are not going to retire until they get answers and help and the medical community on board. Now's not the time to give up. Absolutely. I know I'm talking to someone out there, but that's sort of how I feel right now. Did you say you had another patient, or go ahead?
And also, everybody's got something wonderful about them. I hated my legs. I hated them all the time, and that's all I focused on. And then one day I just decided I have a lovely smile, which now we can't see because we're wearing masks all the time. But I have a lovely smile and my skin's good and my hair's good. And that's what you need to do. Look at these things. Look at Curvy Beth. You should have her on your show. She's from LA. She's modeling. She's beautiful. I love her. I've met her at the Fattest Order conference. I love her. She's claimed her body. She's claimed her life. That's what you need to do however you are, at whatever stage you're at. It doesn't have to be surgery.
And you know, I do these interviews and I don't have lipedema. I have had struggles with my weight and body image and self-love and accepting my curves all of my life, and talking to people like Curvy Girl Beth, who she was on our show.
Oh, she was.
Pale Ginger Pear, I adore her. I am such a fangirl of Pale Ginger Pear and Patty Cornute, and the list goes on. And it is true. These women have schooled me in appreciating myself as is. And so that's such an important message. So tell me about another patient who brings a smile to your face.
There's another patient who, she actually text messaged me 2 days ago, and she said, I woke up and for the first time in my life, I don't feel congested. Could it have been from the enzymes? Because I put her on enzymes. And yes, it was. She has lipedema and Derkum's. She was referred to me by her chiropractor. The chiropractor she said, I don't know what to do. These legs, they're getting bigger and bigger. I can't lose weight. This is crazy. What do I do? And he said, you know, there is a woman working who works with the lymph system. I'm not quite sure what she does, but why don't you go and talk to her? So she has lipedema and she has Derkum's. She was on the waiting list to see Dr. Herbst. She'd waited a year, and then Dr. Herbst stopped working. But she just saw her recently because she's now part of the study. I introduced her to the Raziel study. And of course, Dr. Herbst, everything that was said, she's completely said this is what it is. And she told me, I hate all doctors, but the only doctors that I love are Dr. Herbst and you. You're both so kind to me. And really, I've been working with her. I've been trying to help her with her diet. She's got to get rid of a lot of the fibrosis still. But for the first time in her life, she's been empowered. I've been seeing her for about a year, and everything just changed for her. She knows there's nothing wrong with her. It's not her fault. And those doctors need to know, and they're going to get a report back, what Dr. Herbst said. She's been telling them, you know, what I've been saying, taking them the white papers, different articles, but now they just need to know, and they need to listen, and they cannot invalidate our patients. And so what I encourage all of you out there to do, take papers, take articles. I'll help anybody with any information that you need to take to your doctor. Take it to the doctor. Be very strong, because the average person would just cower down to the doctor. Be very strong. You are representing you and all of the lippy ladies, and tell him the information, and do not let him tell you that you need to lose weight and that you're fat. This is a disease. And there was a study done a couple of years ago with patients with obesity and lipedema, and patients with lipedema with no obesity. And they took fat, and Dr. Herbst was part of the study, and they examined the fat, and the lippy fat without obesity and the lippy person with obesity, that fat was completely different to the fat of obesity. So the fat is different. Everything is different. The inflammatory markers are there. We know from the new study with Roxanne that it is a lymphatic disease. There's the P4 markers that are there. This is a disease. The fat is different. It is not your fault.
Powerful statement. And you did mention Dr. Roxanne's study. So for someone who is not scientifically minded, I hear about Dr. Roxanne's study, and it is a lymphatic disorder. But then I also hear it as a connective tissue disorder.
Yes.
Is it both?
It is both. And this is fat is loose connective tissue. So lipedema is, we used to call it a painful fat disorder, which it is. There's excess fat, usually on the lower part of the body. It's painful. And the pain can be either to the touch, or in later stages, patients will just be painful all the time. For me, when my dog jumps on my legs and on my bed, I am absolutely in agony, even stage 1. So yes, it's painful fat, but the latest term now is that it's a loose connective tissue disease. The lymphatics, of course, are involved. And there are these markers that show that it is a lymphatic disorder. I've been studying this book with a connective tissue, and we've been talking about connective tissue all the time, and fat, and there's so much to learn, because as much as we know about lipedema, there's still so much more to learn.
And thankfully, people like you and Dr. Herbst and Dr. McHutchinson and people are rising up and investing their time and their hearts and their souls in it. And I think that's what I was so moved by when Dr. Herbst showed up at our roundtable last month. I didn't know she was coming, and she showed up. You know why? Because she cares.
Yes.
She heard that there was a group of women with lipedema that were gathering, and she said, I want to be there. And that kind of genuine care that fuels the research, that kind of genuine care that fuels your practice, is what actually gives all of us much more hope. But I want to go back to what you said about enzymes. Tell me about enzymes and their impact. I'm sure a lot of the people watching are saying, come on, Brenda, you don't know about this, but I'm still learning. So please, can you share with me?
Absolutely. So, you know, at the Fat Disorder Conferences, the FDRS, all the lectures are always recorded, and you can get those from the Fat Disorder, or you can Google YouTube. So I actually gave a talk, and I think I spoke a lot about enzymes. It was a talk on post-surgical care. You could Google Fat Disorder Research, Linda and Kahn, post-surgical care. But the enzymes. So when we want our food to digest well, we take enzymes. We take papain, bromelain, and that you take it with food, and that will digest your food. And that's another whole thing which we need to talk about is the gut. For lipedema, the gut is so important.
I do
But
want to talk about that. I'm making a note. So go back to the enzymes.
But then when you take systemic enzymes, they are different. Systemic enzymes you take in between food, and they help. They're called proteolytic. They have a proteolytic effect, so it will break down protein, as in fibrotic tissue, and lipedema patients have lots of fibrosis. It will break that down. It will also help, we think, with the arteries, you know, if there's any clogging in the arteries, but basically we use it for breaking down the fibrotic tissue. There's one called serrapeptase, which comes from the silkworm. When the silkworm goes into the little cocoon, and now it needs to come out of the cocoon, silk, if you take a thread of silk, it's really strong, it's protein, you can't break it. So what they do in this cocoon, the little, they secrete an enzyme called serrapeptase, and that breaks down, it breaks open the cocoon so that now the moth can come out. Well, that is in some of these formulae for the enzymes to help to break down this protein that's accumulating in our tissue. There's a lot of fibrotic tissue in most lipedema patients. And as you lose weight, you'll feel them even more as we palpate. So that's really what happens. So there's systemic enzyme. There's also nattokinase, which is also good, another systemic enzyme. There's another one called lumbrokinase. That one I use for my Lyme patients because it helps to break down the biofilm of the little spirochetes, but you can see there's all these casings that are there. So enzymes can be fantastic.
And do you ingest them? Do you
ingest them? You take
okay.
them, you ingest them. And usually I start people off slowly because they really can have almost like a toxic effect as they start to detox. So you start off with 1 a day, and then you go to 2 a day, and then you add the 3rd one.
Okay, so we always put this disclaimer here, although you are quite proficient and you have a lot of letters after your name. We are not offering any medical advice.
Right.
We're not saying run out and Google and get some enzymes and start ingesting them. But this is a really important bit of information that you can bring to your medical professional and discuss it. You wouldn't recommend that people just Google it and try to find some and buy it and do it without guidance.
Correct. You should always be. And you know that the fact is also, are there clinical double-blind trials? A lot of these things are clinical evidence, practical evidence. There are studies, but it's not the true science like Dr. Roxon just did. So yes, there is a big disclaimer. But what I do is I've always thought out of the box, and I like to try different things, see how they work on people, knowing the science behind it.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, look, we have a hungry population of women, hungry for knowledge, hungry for answers. You say one new thing for us to try and we're on it. We'll be right there. So let's talk about the gut for a minute. You said that that's a really important component.
So many of the patients have what we call brain fog. I'm sure you've heard that. Not concentrating, going into a room, what's going on, what's happening, just fuzzy. Someone said something, what did they just say? Well,
I thought that was menopause.
Well, that too. But 70% of your immune system is in your gut. And your serotonin and your dopamine are created in the gut. And this is a direct link from your gut to your brain. So you really want to keep the bacteria in your gut healthy. And one of the lectures I gave at the FDRS, I gave this whole talk on all the bacteria, and I said, so now, get yourself a dog, let the dog lick you, and go outside and play in the dirt. Because we need healthy bacteria in our gut. And that is what's going to keep your gut microbiome in good health. So I'm not really saying going out and eat sand.
No, I'm like, I need to go get a dog. I borrow my ex-husband's dog on occasion, but So what can the average person do? You know, there's so many probiotics and prebiotics available on the market, and a lot of things labeled this is healthy for your gut. How do we sift and sort through all of that
Yes,
and
it
make
can
good
be
choices?
very confusing. So the prebiotics, you can take food, jicama, leeks, onions, garlic, artichokes, and asparagus. And when I tell people that, they always say, oh, I love those foods. So I love to cook, and I love to help my clients with healthy cooking too. It's not like, don't do this. Yeah, this is what you can do. So I actually created a soup, which I can share the recipe with you, with a lot of those prebiotics in it. It's an asparagus, leek, onion soup, and then I added other things to it as well. Yeah, it's delicious.
Oh, it sounds yummy.
So those are the prebiotics.
Okay.
And then probiotics as well to take as well. But you can have sauerkraut, but you want to get the really good sauerkraut that's been naturally fermented. Sauerkraut, kimchi, but some people don't like that. It's a very strong smell.
I've heard from some of our recent interviews, my friend Nita Cluis from Whole and Balanced Living, she's like, kimchi, it's awesome. I've never had it, but I'm intrigued. So this is all very important for your gut health.
Absolutely. And then you can have fermented vegetables as well. And this will all feed the microbiome. We actually have a microbiome everywhere, in the mouth and everywhere. But the microbiome in the gut is very important. It was only discovered maybe 8 years ago that there is this microbiome. It's like this living thing going on in your gut.
Well, so this is good information for anyone, not just those with lipedema.
Yes. And sugar depletes those bacteria in your gut. So it's another reason not to eat sugar.
So how does this specifically relate to those with lipedema? Is it more pronounced, the need for gut health?
Yes, absolutely, because most patients with lipedema have some challenges with their gut. Everyone will tell you, oh, I bloat after eating, or I look like I'm 5 months pregnant after I've eaten. Well, that's when you find out which foods are doing that to you and try to avoid those foods. It used to happen to me, it doesn't anymore, because I avoid the foods that did that to me.
Why is it? Is it psychological that we're just so attached to certain foods, and it's like, I know that I'm going to feel terrible after I have this, but oh, it's so good.
You have to talk to yourself and say no. But the thing is, if you do once in a while have something that you want as a special treat, the worst thing is to start beating yourself up about it. It's okay. You must have needed that, as long as it's not every single day. And now you move on. You go on, you move forward.
Where did you get your positive approach to life? What do you attribute that to? Or is that just the way you were made?
I don't know. My mother told me that I was always happy, but I have a passion for life. I love life, and I'm excited. I'm excited about everything. And I'm like a geek. At 6 o'clock in the morning, before I go on my walk, I'm seeing what latest study there was, what research. I'm looking up, I'm saving it in my phone, I'm saving it here. It's exciting. And to be able to help people who are struggling is the most rewarding thing that anybody could do.
Well, it seems like clearly you're doing what you were born to do. You were born for this, and you were born with the actual condition. And because of that, you've turned it into a silver lining that's helping so many other people. We're actually running close to time here. So here's your platform. People are, in some cases, getting to know you for the first time through this Lipedema channel interview. What would you like them to know as we close out?
You are all beautiful. You are all special. You are all fabulous. It doesn't matter what your size, what your stage. You are you, and never, ever forget that.
That was so beautifully stated, and we will all give you the contact information so you can connect with our new friend Linda Ann Kahn. And also, we'll get you that recipe for that amazing soup that she discussed. Linda Ann, I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Well, thank you for what you're doing for the lipedema community. And you know, that's what it is. It's global. We all have to be there for each other. That's especially now, even more so, the support and the love.
Well, I feel the support and the love, and I know everyone out there has too. If you know somebody that would make a wonderful interview for the Lipedema channel series, please send me their information. I would love to share their stories as we continue to uplift and support this community of women. I can't thank you enough for tuning in today. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great day, Linda.